Hello, hello, hello. It is me, your True Hill Phenom, SP3. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter for True Heel Heat's Dark Side of the Ring Season 3, Episode 5, Becoming Warrior. This is the Dark Side of the Ring episode focusing on the life and career of one of the most iconic figures in WWE, WWF history, the Ultimate Warrior. I am not here this time with the connoisseur of reporting himself, Mr. Romeo Anthony Colon. Instead, I am joined by the man of 1,004 numbers. This is the Stat King.
Hey guys, what's going on? Glad to be here. Glad to talk about somebody who I grew up being a big fan of in the Ultimate Warrior, and seeing, over the years we learn a lot about people through rumors and innuendo. If you're following the Conrad and Pritchard, but here we get to put some real words to some of those rumors and innuendo, and learn a lot more about people that we knew and their interactions. So it's just gonna be a fun episode. I'm excited to be here.
I am excited to be here as well. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, drop us a like, share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family. Of course, if you're watching us on YouTube for the first time, smash that subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content right here on True Hill Heat. We love the engagement that we've been having on these live stream reviews of A&E Biography as well as Dark Side of the Ring. So leave your thoughts on this episode in the live chat. If you're watching on Facebook or Twitter, drop us a like, a heart emoji, a laugh emoji, an angry emoji. However this episode made you feel, let us know with those emojis. Tag a friend in the live chat to watch along with you, and also leave your thoughts.
So it seems Sid is freezing up a little bit, so hopefully we will be back with him. But let me see what's going on let me see where exactly we are in our. Perfect. All right. So let me just give you guys a little bit of an overview while we wait for Sid to come back. This has been a pretty interesting episode of Dark Side of the Ring. We are starting with giving backstory on some of the people involved. We get a lot of backstory information about Jim Hellwig, the Ultimate Warrior, and how he had a kind of troubled childhood growing up and some of the issues that he faced. I thought this was interesting because you don't get a lot of, especially from back then when we were growing up, we didn't get a lot of backstory about these people, particularly when it comes to someone like Ultimate Warrior, who, they talk about how he was the Dingo Warrior. And then when they talk about how he was the Ultimate Warrior, it's just parts unknown. It's just these promos that don't really make sense. They're kind of chaotic. It's easy for kids to relate to because it's high energy and things like that. But as you get older, you start to realize you don't know a lot about this person as a person, who they were growing up. And I get it, yeah, kayfabe characters and all that kind of fun stuff. But getting this backstory on Warrior and talking about how he grew up was kind of a nice little glimpse into who he was and what kind of person we kind of see down the road. Maybe there were signs even back then that there was going to be a lot of things that went to his head. And we continue onwards and see that he is doing bodybuilding, and he is getting into the bodybuilding game. And I think this is when around the time where he's meeting the woman who's going to be his first wife. And we don't get Dana Warrior in this video for obvious reasons. Dark Side of the Ring and WWE don't always get along, I think, when it comes to producing these documentaries And instead, WWE is making their A&E series where they're able to kind of focus on the things they want to focus on and shift the narrative a little bit when it comes to this retrospective genre, retrospective game. But Dana Warrior, went on record saying that she thought that the Dark Side of the Ring show was smut and filth. And Dark Side of the Ring, in response, with a great trolling game, like maybe Dark Side of the Ring is the honorary true heel, but they came out with a shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees that you can get that takes the Dark Side of the Ring logo and just kind of replaces it with smut and filth. And interestingly enough, as we will get to down the road, they are donating proceeds from the shirt to LGBTQ plus allies and organizations, which you will see why as we continue forward, if you didn't already know. So Warrior's first wife is talking about his life and talking about how they met and the body and how he was doing bodybuilding and all that kind of stuff. She talks about how they were going to go for a first date, and she had asked her to show up to this club or bar where he was being a bouncer. When she got there, he had his hands around the throat of a guy and was just basically tossing him out of the bar. And then there's a trash can involved and trash being done. And it's an interesting glimpse because, if you're somebody, that's one of your first impressions of somebody, to say what exactly is going on. Who is this person that I'm kind of interested, I could be dating? That's pretty crazy. Now, for some people, that might be a warning sign. For other people, that might be, I don't know, a turn on. Different people, different ways. But for Warrior's first wife, it was definitely a turn on. I guess maybe at the very least, you thought, wow, if anything goes wrong, this person can and will protect me. Which is, that's an important part of any relationship. You want to be able to count on your other half to be there for you in times of need and in times of physical violence, if that's what the need is at that moment. So they get together, they continue on with their journey in life, and we see that Warrior, I think it's through the bodybuilding, what they're saying is he meets Steve Borden, who we know as Sting now, the man they call Sting. And the two of them are able to kind of meet, link up, and there's this interest potentially in professional wrestling. So they are able to do tryouts as a tag team, and this is where Jim Cornette comes in. And Jim Cornette is talking about how there are guys in the business who people gravitate towards, and there are guys in the business who people don't gravitate towards. And when it came to the tag team of Steve Borden and Jim Hellwig, people like to look at them. But then once the matches started, it seemed as though they really did not want anything to do with them, and there wasn't much interest in their matches at all. So there was kind of an issue there with how do you get over, how do you draw, and that's something that both men have had difficulties with in their careers. We can see that here, and each one of them took, we'll say, separate paths in getting over with the crowd. Each one of them takes separate paths. We are back. We are back. Just as how we were just talking about how Sting and Ultimate Warrior back then, as they were known as their original tag team, they're having difficulties getting over because people like to look at them, but then once their matches start, they don't want anything to do with them. That's a problem that SP3 doesn't have, because not only do people like to look at him, they like to hear what he has to see on all the plethora of shows that he is on. So glad to have you back after you had some glacier-like problems there, sir.
I don't know what's going on with our StreamYard, but it seems like North Korea is very upset with our words from last week, and they're still trying to affect us and come between me and giving you our reviews. It seems like they really do not like me. But they like you, John. You've been doing a great job. I actually had to pull up on my phone YouTube because my computer, I completely had to shut it down and restart it because it was that bad with the delays and everything. So I apologize, but you've been holding it down perfectly, sir. So where are we in this whole synopsis of the Becoming Warrior episode?
I'd gotten to the point where Sting and Warrior are coming together as a tag team. But if you wanna go back and talk about your thoughts on the introduction of Warrior's first wife and how they met, I said that, you know, different strokes for different folks. Some people, they meet somebody and they're choking somebody out and throwing them out of the bar, and that's a warning sign. Other people, they're like, well, at least he's going to be able to protect me in case anything happens. So
It's been very, very true. I did feel the introduction to this episode was very much like a self-destruction of Ultimate Warrior type of thing, where, you know, people were just kind of bad mouthing him. Like Jim Cornette's comments kind of stands out the most to me, in him saying that he was never a fan of the Ultimate Warrior. So it kind of gave me self-destruction vibes.
Yeah, I like just it's funny because I don't like Jim Cornette and I don't like his takes nowadays, but he's on points with some of these episodes, and it's a little frustrating. But yeah, this was definitely a way to see how booking was done back in the day.
Yeah, it was very different. I think I'm still having issues with North Korea coming in between my Wi-Fi. So I'm gonna see if I can make this final adjustment, and then I'll pop back in. But continue on, John. You've been doing well.
Sure, no problem. All right, guys. So as we were saying, Sting and Hellwig are together, and they're trying to push forward as a tag team. Cornette talks about how people like to see them, but they don't necessarily like the matches, and that's something that's difficult. How do you connect with this audience? How do you connect with this crowd? They kind of go their separate ways in that regard, and we see Warrior trying to figure out what he's going to do for his next step. And that's a tough thing to figure out. Like you have, but especially because back then you had a lot of different options. But for somebody who isn't necessarily drawing that well, you are having you're having a kind of an issue with whether or not companies are going to sign you, whether territories are going to sign you, because people look at you, but they don't like the matches. So how do you go about that? What do you do with that? Well, Warrior decides to go to WCCW, World Class Championship Wrestling, and they're trying to figure out what this character is going to be, what this name's going to be, and they settle on Dingo Warrior. Now, I don't know really what the creative thought process was. They were like, oh, he's supposed to be some kind of animal. He's supposed to be, you know, like he's a fighter. He's going to be a warrior, but he's also like an animal. And so what are we going to call this guy? And so for some reason, they settled on a wild dog that comes from Australia in the form of a dingo. And so they're like, all right, we're going to name this guy Dingo Warrior. And then they're talking backstage like, what is a Dingo Warrior? And his ex-wife is like, I have no fucking clue. I have no idea what a Dingo Warrior is. But hey, this is what we're gonna run with. And so now Warrior is in WCCW as Dingo Warrior and trying to make this work. And now we welcome back Sid. How are you doing, buddy?
Yes, it seems like I'm doing better now. I had to X out of a lot of different windows that I had open after restarting the computer. So I think I'm good now. I think I'm in good shape now.
Can't be looking at all those T-shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees Memorial Day sale.
You know, I was looking at the smut and filth. Third. I wanted to really get that one, so I had to X out of that. But yes, everyone who's watching us, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, let us know in the live chat how you felt about this episode of Dark Side of the Ring. We got Honest Beyond Reasonable saying Jim Cornette, love him or hate him. He has a very clued up mind for pro wrestling in today's age than most. I think he nailed it. A&E has Paul Heyman and Dark Side of the Ring has Jim Cornette. Yeah, I mean, I am not the biggest Jim Cornette fan. I think I've established that on many of different shows, but he definitely had a good perspective when it came to Ultimate Warrior here. Jim Ross also as well. Eric Bischoff, I didn't really understand his placement in this
especially because they barely touched that WCW run.
They didn't touch the WCW run at all. Like, I thought that they would, be better than A&E. A&E is a very WWE centric type of story that they like to tell. But I thought that Dark Side of the Ring, especially since we're highlighting the bad of Ultimate Warrior's career, I thought they would at least touch on his time in WCW. But that did not happen. But continue on, John, and I'll spread my thoughts as it goes along.
Sure. So we have Warrior as the Dingo Warrior, and he's continuing to try to develop his career, continuing to try to get over with the fans. They talk about how he's in there with guys and just kind of destroying them and wrecking them, and he's still not being able to get where he needs to go or get where he wants to be, and it's starting to be a little frustrating. However, he is able to parlay his slow burning kind of success into a contract with the WWF. And if there's ever a promotion that can make something work when it comes to somebody who doesn't have talent but could weirdly have a character that could get over, it's Vince McMahon and WWF. When they're talking about how he comes in as the Dingo Warrior to WWF and they're just putting him up against guys and he is wrecking them and just destroying them and getting them over, Jim Cornette is talking about how these guys are having to lay down for him, and it's one of the smartest decisions ever, and it's being done in a much better way than it was being done before. Also, I got really, and to me, even back then when it was happening, I always thought instead of chanting Goldberg at Ryback, they should have been chanting Warrior, because to me, it reminded me a lot more of Warrior than it really did of Goldberg. Goldberg was destroying people, but he was actually having matches. He wasn't necessarily. He wasn't really always. He wasn't really always just squashing people. Whereas Ryback, when he first showed up, was just destroying people in that backpack stunner. It reminded me more of Warrior when he first came on the scene than really Goldberg. But the comparisons are there. They're both bald. All right, and they wear singlets.
Exactly, they're both bald and fat. One word type of names. So I think that's where the comparisons come from. But I do agree with you. It's more akin to Ultimate Warrior's rise up the top than Goldberg's in a lot of ways. We got Heel Steven, my boy, in the live chat here. He said, I said this on Twitter. I thought the show was good. However, I felt like it should have aired before the Sunday's A&E episode on Warrior to pack a punch. A cool note about that, Heel Steven and the rest of the people watching, it was supposed to air before the A&E episode, but A&E caught wind of when this Warrior episode was coming on, so they pushed it up to air before the Dark Side of the Ring episode, and thus why Dana Warrior came out and said, no, I'm not going to be involved in the smut and filth of my late husband's career. So we got Romeo agreeing, saying, I agree, it kind of got grandstanded by A&E, and it did exactly that. They grandstand. They took a lot of the story. They had more time to talk about his career. Although they had their own holes in their story, they had a lot more time to kind of deep dive on certain issues. But I feel like Dark Side of the Ring addressed the controversy around Ultimate Warrior better than A&E did. But continue on, John.
I think that controversy really starts when Vince is saying, I like Warrior. It's this dingo part that I think is dumb. And he's right. He's right. Like, what I mean, for those who don't know, a dingo is a wild dog native to Australia that they don't know how it really originated, because it actually comes from Australia. It's not brought in by settlers and then it evolved differently. What that has to do with this guy from absolutely no connection whatsoever.
From parts unknown.
So they're trying to figure out, like, couldn't even be from down under or anything like that. They're trying to come up with a name, and they go, you know what? Ultimate. Like this is gonna be great. This is gonna be awesome. So they do the name change. They have it as in a wonderfully WWF way. they basically just have him in a video inset package while a match is happening with him saying, I decided to no longer be Dingo Warrior, and now I'm Ultimate Warrior, and join me on the ride, guys. Also buy my shirts. Like, it's a great classic WWF kind of thing where it's just, there's going to be an abrupt change and we're just going to drop something and start something new. But when they start something new, it works out very, very well because they've given Warrior time to kind of come up with what this Ultimate Warrior character is going to be. And that's when we get the ropes shaking. That's when we get these nonsensical promos
the coke-induced promos, as I like to do.
That have nothing to do with anything. They are like there's a better connection between those promos and Logic than Dingo's and Dingo Warrior. Like that, it was ridiculous. But it works because that's what little kids love. They eat that shit up. They're just like, I have no idea what he's saying, but he's yelling it and it sounds great. I'm in. And I know that for a fact because I was an Ultimate Warrior fan growing up. When I was a little kid, we had these two binders, and one was a Hulk Hogan one, and one was an Ultimate Warrior one. And my mom let my older brother pick which one he wanted, and he picked the Hulk Hogan one, so I got the Warrior one. And so I was like, all right, I gotta ride with this guy. Like this is my binder now. And later, when you're having those wrestling matches with your siblings, always the older sibling wants to be the world champion. Well, what does that leave you with? Well, that leaves you with being the Intercontinental Champion if you are a WWF person. So of course, Warrior kind of became a guy who we held for a while as synonymous with the Intercontinental title in a sense. So kids gravitated towards that, and I gravitated towards that, and it worked when it came to getting Warrior over. And now we're starting to see this kind of crazy run for Warrior. But as Jim Ross says, this is a guy who hates pro wrestling and does not want to be a pro wrestling. It's really weird.
And speaking of your binder, we got a shot here
that is the binder.
Of your binder that you had growing up as a kid, the Ultimate Warrior binder for everyone who had their Ultimate Warrior merch. Me, myself, I had the Ultimate Warrior wrestling buddy. I had him and Hulk Hogan as a kid. So I used to wrestle with those two, beat them up a little bit, have them beat up each other. My mom never got me the Macho Man. Macho Man was my favorite, but she never got me that one because he was the Macho King by that point. And so she got me the two baby faces, the two favorites of the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan. But that binder is pretty cool and pretty sweet. I rather have that one than the Hulk Hogan one. You get yellow and red, you probably would get made fun of at school. So you picked the right one in the end, John.
And when we talk about who we're gonna pick, well, now Vince has an issue. Vince has some kind of choice to make. He's got to pick. Do I keep Hogan as the champion? Does as Pritchard loves to say, Hogan's got to pose. Is Hogan going to be the champion? Or am I going to kind of test something out with this kind of newer guy that I have? And Vince says, you know what? Let's pull the trigger. And this is our WrestleMania 6 main event. This is when we see the another version of Unstoppable Force versus Immovable Object collide with each other when we have our WWF World Champion in Hogan versus our Intercontinental Champion in Warrior, and they're taking each other on. Both titles are on the line, and in kind of a, I guess, shocking way, especially back then, Warrior comes out on top, and Warrior is the new world champion. And this is kind of where I think the whole documentary takes a shift. Because throughout this time, we're talking about how, Warrior may have some issues, but it's okay because he's still, he's doing what he needs to do to take care of his family. So we can kind of push those issues down, push him to the side, which, we're still in Mental Health Month. Don't do that. But don't do that at all. But when it came to his in-ring work, they were able to say, he's able to hide away what is not good about him and accentuate what is. It's difficult to do both of those things once you are the top guy. You got to have those longer matches. You got to be able to bear the brunt of having the weight of the company on your shoulders. And back then, world title reigns were pretty long. They weren't short spans of time. They weren't the 2 weeks that John Cena holds a title between the Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber when he drops it to Bray Wyatt a couple years ago. That's not how it works. You got to be able to show and prove. That's why not everybody got world title reigns. And as Warrior's first wife, and there's a reason why we keep saying first, puts it, one day Jim Hellwig stopped coming home and Ultimate Warrior came home. And
he says that after he won the WWF Championship at WrestleMania 6. I feel like a lot of his early part of his career they kind of like brushed over, but they did focus on how it was that Hulk Hogan was able to kind of pull out the Ultimate Warrior's best match at the time. You don't really get Hulk Hogan praise a lot on these type of documentaries, but Jim Ross especially talking about how Hogan carried Warrior to his best matchup and made him look like an absolute star. He gives him a lot of credit for that. And to take note that his first wife's name was Sherry Tyree, and I think she did a great job because a lot of this stuff was very tough for her to relive. It's the same credit that and praise that we gave to Dana Warrior for the A&E biography version of the Ultimate Warrior story. We got to give the same credit to Sherry Tyree because a lot of this stuff was very tough for her to relive and go over. So credit goes to her as we, continue on with this story. But we got Honest Beyond Reasonable saying, SP3, you on the money. This version was more realistic on Dark Side. We got the good brother Brett Thomas in the live chat saying hi to Romeo, hi to us. Hope you are well. We got Heel Steven saying, I look forward for Dark Side of the Ring dropping that Destructicity t-shirt at PWTs. Yes, them talking about that never being able to get over was hilarious to me. We got a Kincaid saying, I can't find it to watch. Did they change something so you can't watch it for free? Yeah, on the Vice website, you can't watch it for free unless you have like a cable subscription of some kind to log into. There are streaming sites that will have it up probably later on today or tomorrow. I know I watched it on YouTube, but YouTube doesn't have the best versions. The sound doesn't really all sync up, so it was pretty hard to watch. Me and my wife were kind of complaining about that, but there are ways for you to catch it. But those are just a few from what I remember here. And then we got Rambo, always with the negativity on the modern era, saying sad thing is we talking about Warrior as bad, yet the IC run he had outdoes anything in the last 20 years in modern North American wrestling. You only got to watch fans in crowd, then they were crazy for it. I hope you realize that in the last 20 years, it was the Attitude Era where fans went crazier for this type of stuff. So I'm just going to say, Rambo, I'm going to call BS on that comment that you just gave us. Brett Thomas says JR was cool. He also calls out Honest Behind Reason, saying he's honest also. He recently said Jake Paul was the best heel in wrestling and combat sports. You got to hand it to my man Brett Thomas. Brett Thomas, I love you, man. You are the funniest out of everyone who follows in the True Hill Heat community. And even then, he's throwing us some. He's our next super chat, Brett Thomas. I want to let you know, due to your super sticker here, you donating just under $1 to True Hill Heat, you are now entered into our call-in, our first ever call-in that will be coming up on a live episode of True Hill Heat. So Brett Thomas, I want to thank you for your super sticker. Anyone else who wants to donate $1 or more to True Hill Heat, we definitely appreciate your support. It helps us make more videos. It helps us make more live streams, and you will be entered into our call-in that's going to be happening on a live True Hill Heat. We're going to talk about it more on True Hill Heat 127 tomorrow morning. So check that out for sure. We got Heel Steven saying the YouTube version was out of sync for safety purposes. Yeah, it was out of sync with the sound, and then the video was also like going back and going forth. So it was like very, very weird. So thank you for that. Letting us know what the reason was that for. And then we got our WrestleScope saying, I was not a huge fan of this episode. My least favorite of all the Dark Side episodes, maybe because A&E dropped theirs first. And they did that on purpose. They did that on purpose, ladies and gentlemen, just so everyone knows. And then we got True Draw Josh saying this was Cornette's best appearance on Dark Side of the Ring. That says a lot from me. And yes, Josh is not a big fan of Cornette like I am, so I understand. And we're gonna keep Brett Thomas super sticker up as StatKing continue on with the story.
And we see that now part of the things that Warrior has to do is work with a lot more people than he did before and work on how to find ways to get them over. But Warrior now is starting to have some of these things going to his head, and he's not that interested in helping out other guys. He's more concerned about himself. On top of this, we see that he's having marital problems at home. His wife goes through a situation where she figures out that he's cheating, and she's basically telling him, when you get back home, you're gonna be served papers. She has a, it's tough. It's one of the problems of being a wrestler on the road, and it's interesting because before he was champion, when he was still Dingo Warrior, even, he was asking her to come with him on some of the days out of the month and tell him what was going on, tell him what the reaction was with the crowd, trying to help him. But things get tougher on the road. The wife eventually goes back home. There are other days out of the month where you're left to your own devices, and when you got a lot of money and you're back for the standards back then, a good-looking guy that women want, and you're on TV, things can be tough. You can have some issues there when it comes to being faithful. But one thing that Warrior has no problems being faithful to is himself. And
I do want to address what Sherry Tyree talked about, her revelation of finding out that Warrior was cheating. She tells the story about first of all, it was Jim Hellwick going away and Ultimate Warrior coming home. She talked about his erratic behavior, and then she would call him when he was out on the road. And one day she did like a wellness check at the hotel, basically checking because he wasn't answering his phone calls. She wanted to make sure he was at the hotel. The person at the hotel confirms he's there. So she calls the room, he picks up, and she hears a female's voice in the background. But that's not the cherry on top. The cherry on top is when she goes through his stuff at home and he has this address book or event planner. And in the event planner, it has the females and the cities they're from of who he is hooking up with. Man, oh man, he is a poor planner. He is that is the worst event planner you could possibly leave at home. If you're doing dirt to your wife, he just did it in the worst possible way. He wasn't covering his bases. My oh my, he was that is a sloppy shop, ladies and gentlemen. Not what WWE was doing last year with the Warrior, how the Warrior cheated on his wife. That was a sloppy shop all in itself. And I got to give credit to Sherry Tyree because you could tell it was very tough on her, even like reliving all of this. So she was very hurt by this. This was something that really affects her even to this day, because telling the story, she got very emotional, and I think it really added some emotional punch to this episode of Dark Side of the Ring. We got in the live chat, we got Romeo saying, if you combine A&E with Dark Side of the Ring, you have the ultimate biography. Hearing from both wives was necessary and helps tell the complete story. I do agree. When you put one with the other, it's a 10 out of 10. When you split it off, you kind of got to split the difference, it seems like, or come to an overall average on how they covered things. But a lot of what you guys are saying is that the A&E kind of took away from this episode, because they did cover a lot of the things that the A&E biography already went through. But Sherry Tyree was the highlight and was really the person that added a lot and added some depth to the Warrior, because like I said in the A&E biography that we did on Monday with Romeo, the thing that caught me the most wasn't, his career highlights and everything. It was his mentality and his obsession with, his body, his obsession to be a star, his obsession with, being successful in professional wrestling. And Sherry Tyree kind of explained that he was a skinny, scrawny kid. She also explained that, his dad, in the A&E biography, all we hear is that his dad left him when he was 10 years old. She explains that his dad cheated on his wife with the neighbor. So the sloppy shop that the Warrior would go on to go with Sherry Tyree, it was all predecessed by his father cheating on his wife with a goddamn neighbor. Like, this like an episode of You. Like, what the hell? Oh my god. We got Romeo thanking Brett for that super sticker. And speaking of super stickers, we got, for the first time ever, 2-in-1 stream WrestleScopes. They're donating $2 super sticker. WrestleScopes becomes our third person entered into our call-in special of True Heel Heat, along with Mott Black, who donated for the Dark Side of the Ring episode for Nick Gage. We got our good brother Brett Thomas earlier in this episode, and now WrestleScopes. Thank you so much for donating $2. Like I said before, guys, these super chats, these super stickers helps True Heel Heat grow, helps us do more live streams like this. So thank you, WrestleScopes. We're going to keep you on the screen as John StatKing continues on with the Warrior here.
Yeah, so we now move on to how Warrior has to have more feuds with people, and one of those persons is going to be Jake the Snake Roberts. And Jake Roberts talks about how Vince comes to him and says, we kind of want you to work with Warrior, but you got to talk to him first. And Jake is a little confused because, well, Vince is the boss, so why can't he just tell Warrior that he's going to work with Jake the Snake? It's a little confusing. But once Jake goes over there to talk to Warrior, it kind of makes a little bit more sense to Jake, because Warrior gets in his face and says, look, I don't give a damn about you. I don't care about your family. I don't care about your mom, your dad, your sister, your cousin, your neighbor. I don't care about anybody. I don't care about wrestling, he says. I care about myself. And I care about my family. So if this is going to work, I want to be able to get all my shit in. Like, that's literally what he said. Like, I want to get my stuff done. So you cannot miss a show, because if you miss a show, you're messing with my money. And if you mess with my money, I'm going to make sure I get you. And Jake's like, wow, okay, this kind of makes sense. This makes sense. And it's interesting to think that for as powerful or as egotistical or always in control that Vince McMahon seems, there were some people, very few people along the way, that were able to kind of make Vince sit down, put him in a box and be like, you're going to do what I tell you. And Warrior was one of those persons for, whatever that's worth, considering what Vince has done to other people. Warrior was able to do it to Vince, which is pretty incredible. But all good things come to an end, because Vince is slowly figuring out that he's got to regain control. And this feud with Jake the Snake is building. It's building. They're doing things. They're doing this back and forth. And now there seems to be a little bit of a money issue. And we have a situation where Warrior sends a letter to Vince telling him that he wants a new contract, and he wants certain things put into this contract. Like, he wants, I think it was like over $500,000 for performing at WrestleMania 7. He wants guaranteed numbers of dates. He wants this, that, the other thing. And he says that this amount of money is fair for what Warrior does.
He wants to get paid on the same
as Hogan.
As Hogan. The guy that's responsible for WrestleMania, the top draw, the guy that was WWF champion for like 3 years. He wants to get paid on equal ground as him. And, when I'm watching the A&E biography and they're talking about this, I'm like, this is ludicrous. It's ludicrous to think like that. But then, you hear the background with like Sherry Tyree talking about how he went to Vince and he would ask for like limousines and, I want my own locker room. And this is stuff that Vince all gave him. I can understand now why he would make these demands and think that it was right and think that he was going to get it because Vince was coddling him. Vince was giving him everything he wanted before, so why not make all these demands and put it out there again? We got Russell Scopes adding in, dude was stupid enough to put his side pieces in his day planners. Yes, talking about the wacky way Warrior cheated on Sherry Tyree. Heel Steven adding in, all Warrior had to tell his wife, it wasn't me. Shaggy voice. And Heel Steven becomes our third super chat, giving us $10. Heel
Wow,
Steven,
heel.
this is why he is a true heel. He is an honorary member of True Heel Heat, in my opinion. I'm going to be live on Heel Steven's YouTube channel, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 p.m. BST. So go over to the good brother. Once this stream is done, subscribe to his channel because we're going to go live with his Double or Nothing predictions and previews. Good brother, you were already going to be invited if we ever did a call in, and now you guaranteed that you probably have the top spot on the call in. $10 donation. Thank you so much, Hill Steven. We're going to keep him up on the screen while StatKing continues here.
Yeah, Heel Steven donating the kind of money that Warrior was demanding from Vince McMahon. And the crazy thing is, Vince agrees to it. Vince agrees to it, but Vince says, you know, the cogs are turning, the plans are working, as they say. And SummerSlam rolls around. Following the SummerSlam event, Vince just says, you know what? I'm done with you. I don't even want to talk to you. Here's a letter. Here's a letter.
Like Jake was great. Jake just says, like, he comes into the back, he's still, you know, carrying the chair. They show the highlight, and just Vince says, "Stop, motherfucker, you're fired." And then he turns to Jake, like it's a double whammy. He tells Jake, "You might be the most unluckiest son of a bitch that I've ever met."
And Jake's just like, well, now I got something new to drink about. Fuck.
Now we understand where the drug use and the drinking came from.
It makes so much more sense. He's just like, you know, I was gonna work with Warrior, and then he got fired.
I'm so fucking unlucky that Warrior got fired when I
Oh my god. Yeah. So he there's this letter, and I think it was Cornette who was reading it or had a copy of it or something like that. It was reading it, where he was just like, frankly, you have become too difficult to work with. And you think you're bigger than the company. And it's interesting because you think about how Hogan and Warrior and even Macho Man to a certain extent were larger than the company and could make certain demands and make certain dictations to Vince. It makes sense why 10, 15, 20, 30 years later, Vince refuses to let anybody get bigger than the company anymore. Exactly. And he is willing to put his foot down and say, I don't care, you know, Zack Ryder, if you have this internet championship and you made a lot of fans, you're getting buried. I don't care, Rusev, if all these people love you and Rusev Day is a thing. I mean, we'll sell a lot of shirts, but you're still getting buried. Like, it's who he picks, who he chooses, and he makes sure that he has them down in ironclad contracts so that he can do something exactly like this. And in this letter, it basically tells Warrior that he's being fired. There's no real option that he has, and we kind of have this interesting transition where Warrior is saying, "Well, what am I going to do? How am I going to try to figure this out?" So he kind of there's just like this lull for him basically, and he's saying, "All right, well then I guess we'll try to figure something out." But WWF kind of comes back to the table and says, well, maybe we can have some kind of reconciliation if you are willing to work with us and be a little bit more of a team player. And Warrior says all the things that need to be said so that they're able to have this reconciliation. But time has passed. It has been some years since Warrior was in the WWF and was this top guy. And when he makes his comeback and he has his return, he squashes Hunter Hearst Helmsley Triple H, who has been on a tear and has been being built up and has been doing these great things and great work that's the building blocks for what could be a very great career. And out of nowhere, he just runs into this Ultimate Warrior, or more like Ultimate Warrior runs into him because he's running to the ring.
Through him, yeah.
And just goes straight through him and just basically obliterates him. And Cornette says it very well. All those people that watched and loved Warrior in 1990, when they're watching him again in 1996, 6 years later, they're like, "Oh boy, no, there's something off here. There's something, you know."
And this is similar to what they said with, you know, the one thing that another big hole in this Dark Side of the Ring episode is that they didn't address the 1992 run, which was one of my personal favorites because I've said it before in a couple of live streams. I love WrestleMania 8, and the ending is really made by the Ultimate Warrior's return and him coming out and him looking starkly different than the Ultimate Warrior of 1990, because this is around the steroid trial and all the issues. He eventually failed a couple of drug tests, got accused of using steroids, and he was let go very quickly into his 1992 run. But they didn't even really address that. They kind of just went to the 1996 run. And I agree, this is a totally different time. We're getting closer to the Attitude Era and farther away from the Rock and Wrestling era where Ultimate Warrior came to prominence. So you can kind of understand why the fans had this type of disconnect with the Warrior at that time. We got Romeo in the live chat saying Jake the Snake was so good. Keep it real throughout. He also says he's going to be joining us live watching Heel Steven YouTube channel later today, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 p.m. BST, as we do our predictions for AEW Double or Nothing. He also says Cornette had so much fun reading Vince's letter. You could tell, yes, he was having a hoot of a time talking about that Vince letter. Our WrestleScopes also dropping some comments after his great super sticker earlier. He says, I think the letter in Gorilla firing Warrior trumps getting fired by FedEx or on your wedding day. Yes. Because like the A&E special talked about it a little bit more, Warrior viewed Vince as a father figure. So for him to choose someone else over him, say that Hogan is a bigger star, saying that you're a legend in your whole mind, just completely tore him down. Like it tore him into pieces. And then they stomped on the little pieces years later with the self-destruction of Ultimate Warrior. But that's another story for another time. Heel Steven giving us the info saying to think next week's episode is on Jake's father. So you know Jake is going to keep it even more real on that one. We also talk about WrestleScope saying, I don't remember, was Warrior's return versus Triple H after the curtain call? No, it wasn't. It was actually a few months before the curtain call. The curtain call happened in May of 1996. The WrestleMania 12 was at the end of March in 1996. And then we got Rachel Cornell with another super chat for us, donating £3 to us, £2.99, saying love True Hill Heat and Powered 4 SP3, my fave SP3. Rachel, you have been one of our favorites in the THH community. You've been saying a lot in the live chats. You talked about so much during our A&E biographies over the last couple of weeks, and now the great donation. Thank you so much. We appreciate the love. Keep on providing those super stickers and super chats. And Rachel, yes, you are the next to be entered into our call-in. We got 5 elite members of the call-in for the True Hill Heat. We're going to have more information on that on True Hill Heat 127 tomorrow, but StatKing, take it away.
And so his run in 96 is very, very short. It's very abrupt. Vince says, this is not working. And I think it's like, this is going to be the final time that we try to work with Warrior because the industry is shifting. And so they kind of release Warrior. And this is where it gets a little weird for me because they basically said in one sentence, Warrior went to WCW, and the next sentence was, and then Warrior left WCW. Like, they did not cover the WCW run whatsoever. They didn't talk about how, a lot of people felt as though they brought in Warrior so that Hogan could get his win back from Mania.
That's the crazy part because
they have Bischoff. Yeah, they have Bischoff there, and they just completely
They literally gave us the setup to talk about his short, and you didn't even have to talk about it too long. You just could have just brushed over it, talked about how Hogan brought him in. Like, you could have had Cornette just say that part. They brought him in as another big time WWF star of that era, and Hogan wanted to get his win back. Just show the highlight of Halloween Havoc 1998, and then move on. But they literally set themselves up and then didn't address it. That was crazy.
And the super weird part of it is that what's the point of having Bischoff in any part of this documentary if you're not going to talk about the one time when Bischoff was his boss? Like, it just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, what real perspective is Bischoff able to give us? Because in essence, he's given us secondhand opinions. He's given us secondhand stuff. If he's not going to talk about the times when he actually interacted with Warrior, everything he's telling us is all secondhand information.
Exactly.
So what's the point of having him there? But Warrior, I guess WCW also realized what's the point of having Warrior here as well, because they are quick to let Warrior go shortly after that Halloween Havoc match. And now we have the real kind of dark turn of Ultimate Warrior, because you have a man who made a lot of money. And this was a lot of money back then. Inflation, what it is, he invested properly, took care of it, saved, whatever you want to say. He can afford to sit at home and do nothing, basically for the rest of his life. And that's kind of what he does. He starts to sort of turn his life around and become something of a motivational speaker. But as is pointed out by our talking heads, this seems to be more of a cover just to be able to rant about the things that he wants to rant about. And for some reason, one of the big things he wants to rant about is the fact that he doesn't like gay people. I don't know why. There's no real explanation for this, either in the documentary or because Warrior himself never gave one. The documentary was like, we can't really explain why, because Warrior never really gave some kind of explanation. There's also shots that he takes towards Hulk Hogan as well, saying that Hulk Hogan is like a detestable piece of shit, and all these sorts of things, which, I mean,
and they kind of share the same views, because we saw some of his comments from his blog talking about that black people being wrong and that racism doesn't exist, and then his infamous quote of "queering doesn't make the world work." That's why I think that the Dark Side of the Ring Smut and Filth t-shirt is next level of petty and trolling, because the proceeds for the t-shirt go to the LGBTQ plus community. That is just next level.
I love that. I love that.
Creators.
And maybe it's weird, because as you're saying, they shared a lot of views, but maybe he was a little bit ahead of his time when it came to how people should feel about Hulk Hogan. But either way, we see that this is just a horrible kind of dark place, weird time for him. But in a way, it allows him to kind of turn his life around when it comes to certain aspects. And he's able to, I forget the exact situation. Like, I know they were in some kind of a gym where they met back up, but he and his ex-wife are there, and they have each found separate new partners to be with, and they have some kind of reconciliation where they're able to say, I did horrible things to you, and I'm really sorry for all of those things, and I never meant to hurt you. It was never my intent, but I did, and so for that reason, I apologize. And it's crazy because Sherry says, this was the last time that I spoke to him. This was the last time that I saw him. And that's pretty incredible. And just as how that is the last time she sees him, we kind of jump forward to 2014. And this is the Ultimate Warrior's induction into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I do want to touch on the Sherry Kyrie, because you could tell that was a very emotional conversation for her, because she got emotional during the whole during like reliving that whole situation, and gotta hand it to her, because like to even reconciliate and, be happy for him, getting the gym, finding some happiness, finding Dana Warrior. It shows a lot about Sherry Tyree, who I could just continue to praise for her contributions on this episode of Dark Side of the Ring. A couple of comments to highlight here. Rachel saying, "Oh, thank you." She also says, "Honestly, you, John Scott, Stu, and Alex McCarthy are such great hosts. You work so hard." She also asks, "By the way, did you check out that clip out of on YouTube? Can I have a advice?" Yes, I did. It was hilarious. Ultimate Warrior was even crazy in his later years, just leaving those two fans who were very, very much, admired him, just leaving them out and just telling them, as Honest Beyond Reasonable says, never ever ask for advice, never ask for a reference. It's, yes, like Romeo says, yes, Rachel, that clip was funny. It was hilarious in my opinion. But yes, continue on. Let's finish this up, John. Only got about less than 5 minutes. I have to jump over on Sportskeeda Wrestling, so let's finish this up.
I got you. And here we have Warrior doing his 2014 Hall of Fame induction ceremony. In an interesting twist of fate, we have Jake the Snake, who is there. And in a very Jake the Snake moment, Jake's talking about how he's got a roll of quarters, a roll of coins, and he's ready to just beat the shit out of Warrior when he sees him for everything that Warrior did to him and said to him over the years. And somebody taps him on the shoulder. Jake turns around, and it is Warrior. And Warrior puts his hands up, says, "Look, I'm coming here in peace, and I'm here to just say that I was wrong, and I apologize to you for all the pain and hurt that I caused you and your family all that time ago because of the things that I said. It was me, but it wasn't me at the same time." And what are you gonna do if you're Jake? Like, can you punch the guy at that point? I mean, I guess maybe you could, but Jake is saying, I gotta be willing to accept that apology. And we have the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, we have the speech, and then finally, in an incredible moment, we have Warrior coming out on Monday Night Raw, the Raw after WrestleMania, the Raw after the weekend where he's been inducted into the Hall of Fame. And he cuts one final promo, and in a weird way, it's a summation of Warrior's career. And he talks about how every Warrior's heart beats its last moment, but as long as that Warrior, his spirit is with all of you, then he is running. That person is running forever, and it's an incredible, poignant moment. And it's something that's pretty, like, for me personally, I believe people die twice. The first time is when you actually die, and the second time is when somebody says your name or talks about you for the last time. That's your memory fading from existence.
True.
And that's Warrior's point.
It's like the Disney movie Coco. I've seen that. Yes, they explain.
Oh, I haven't. Okay.
Deep stuff.
So that's kind of the message that Warrior's trying to get across. And it's an incredible, because the very next day he passes away. And you're losing somebody at such a young age. He was pretty damn young. And it's also interesting because that was one of his fears. His fears was dying early because of what had happened to people in his family due to health conditions. So to have it actually happen, have the crows come home to roost, so to speak. It's incredible. And we end our episode talking about how Warrior was a conflicted individual, but he had an incredible mark on the wrestling industry. JR is talking about how Warrior meant a lot to people, and it was just an incredible ride, an incredible life for Warrior to live. So, Sid, what were your final thoughts on the documentary? And I guess we can do MVP and LVP.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that they did a good job of talking about his more controversial times as being a motivational speaker, and his controversial statements, and why it was a shock that he was honored in the Hall of Fame, and why they would go on to kind of glorify him with the Warrior Roar. I think they focused on that a little bit more. We got more to understand his psyche and his mentality here in this episode, hearing from Sherry Tyree, who, in my eyes, I have to give the MVP award to her because it took a lot for her to relive a lot of the stuff that she talked about here. So she's definitely my MVP. How about you, StatKing?
I give her my MVP as well. She had a lot of emotional moments, especially when she was talking. Like, you never want to see, you never want to find out that your spouse is cheating on you, and just to have to go through it again years later on TV, like on camera. That's pretty incredible. So shout out to her for being able to soldier through all of that. But my LVP is probably going to be Eric Bischoff because I have no idea why he's there. That's just very confusing to me.
Gotta agree with you. I think Eric Bischoff is obviously the LVP because they didn't even cover the time that they should have covered with Eric Bischoff, period. So that was just strange, his placement here altogether. We got Rambo in the comments saying also reason WWE sucks as well today. Dana Warrior is a writer. The hell are they thinking? No disrespect to her, but what background does she have for it? I don't know. It seems like just a reason to keep her on to make relevance for the Warrior Award. And Heel Steven agrees with us. MVP, his wife, and Jim Cornette, he gives the co-MVP to. And he says LVP, Eric Bischoff. Out of 10, John, what did you give this episode?
I feel like this one was a little lacking just in different points in time, but because of some of the good things that they covered, I gave this one like a 6.5 to 7, like 7 pushing it, but yeah.
I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. My lowest score for Dark Side of the Ring this season. The A&E biography definitely took some of the punch out of this one. But yes, that brings us to a close on our Dark Side of the Ring Season 3, Episode 5, Becoming the Warrior episode. We got Rambo saying 5.5 out of 10 for himself. So he rated it low as well. StatKing, tell the people where they could find you on social media and the True Hill Heat YouTube channel.
You guys can catch me on Instagram. It's right down there at the bottom. But more importantly, you guys can catch me on Dark Power, covering AEW Dark, AEW Elevation, and NWA Power. And as always, you can catch me on Fusion of Honor with my co-host, 3-time baby-making champ, Ness, where we talk about MLW Fusion and Ring of Honor.
Yes, watch the StatKing. The all-new Dark Power is up on the channel right now. Definitely check us out. Come back here tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, or in the afternoon in the UK, 2 p.m. BST for True Hill Heat 127 as we go live to preview AEW Double or Nothing with Stephanie Chase, Miss Dynamite herself, as well as Benno from the Gravel App podcast, as well as Post Wrestling. You can follow me at True Hill SP3. Jump on over to Sports Keto Wrestling as I'm about to go live to talk about the latest big news with WWE and New Japan in a potential working relationship. And one final comment to highlight, our good brother WrestleScopes gave it a 6.0 out of 10, and Heel Steven says I give it a 7. Had this aired Sunday, it would have been a 7.5. So shouts out to everyone in the live chat for joining us. Shouts out to StatKing for a great episode and leading us along. So for the StatKing, it is me, your True Hill Phenom SP3. This has been our Dark Side of the Ring Becoming Warrior review. We'll see you tomorrow with True Hill Heat 127.